Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a moment to dissect a crucial aspect of human nature, one that is often misunderstood or oversimplified: the sexual response of women. When we talk about female arousal, we must first recognize the complexity and multifaceted nature of it. It is not simply a matter of physical attraction or a biological impulse. It involves the entirety of a person. Emotional, psychological, and physical components all working in tandem. When we speak of female arousal, we must begin by acknowledging an unshakable truth. Emotional connection is not optional. It is foundational. A woman cannot separate her emotional reality from her physical response because her biology and psychology are not at war. They are in alignment. She does not merely react to surface-level stimuli. She absorbs them through the lens of meaning, relationship, and significance. A woman's body may be touched, but if her soul is untouched, there will be no ignition. You cannot bypass her heart to reach her desire. Her arousal is not a reaction to novelty. It is a response to emotional resonance. When she feels seen, she softens. When she feels understood, she opens. And when she feels safe, she responds, not with duty, but with desire. Emotional connection for a woman is not a luxury. It is the architecture of her sexuality. Her mind is the gateway, her feelings the map, and her heart the compass. You can speak seductively, but if your words are hollow, they will echo into a void she refuses to let you enter. Her defenses rise, not because she is cold, but because she has not yet been warmed by emotional truth. She longs for depth, not performance, not superficial attention, but sincere and sustained emotional presence. If her inner world does not feel held, her outer expression will remain guarded. A woman does not surrender to the touch of a hand until she has surrendered to the presence behind it. She listens to your silence, she reads between your words, and she senses the intention in your tone. A man who speaks to her body but ignores her essence will never know her fully. You cannot force what must be invited. Emotional connection is not a trick. It is the sacred trust built through honesty, vulnerability, and attunement. A woman is not aroused by power over her. She is moved by power shared with her. When she feels chosen, not as an object, but as a whole being, her response is not manufactured. It is awakened. Her arousal is the echo of her emotional freedom. Where there is pressure, there is resistance. Where there is manipulation, there is retreat. But where there is emotional safety, the body speaks a different language. You cannot seduce a woman who feels unseen, unheard, or misunderstood. Her desire does not live in the superficial, it resides in the depths. Emotional presence is the greatest aphrodisiac. You must show her that her thoughts matter, that her feelings carry weight, that her experience is not secondary to your agenda. In that environment, she is no longer performing for you, she is with you. A woman in emotional alignment does not need to be persuaded. She does not calculate or pretend. Her sexuality becomes a natural overflow of her internal wholeness. The deeper the emotional intimacy, the more potent her physical expression. Her body cannot lie where her emotions feel safe. She wants to be pursued not for her reaction, but for her reality. To touch her physically while remaining emotionally distant is to offer her emptiness in a gilded box. It is connection, not conquest, that she craves, and when she feels it, her response is not transactional, it is transformational. You must understand that a woman does not separate her sexual desire from the story she tells herself about your presence. If her nervous system associates you with safety, warmth, and attentiveness, her arousal will be intuitive, not forced. Her subconscious opens the door before her body ever takes a step. Emotional connection is not about making her feel useful, it's about making her feel valuable. Her desire does not arise in isolation. It emerges from the relational soil you've cultivated. Without emotional oxygen, her arousal suffocates. You cannot demand what must be invited. You cannot provoke what must be protected. If she feels emotionally invisible, her body will become unavailable. She will not offer physical closeness to emotional vacancy. When she opens, she is offering access to her inner world, not merely her physical self. That level of vulnerability cannot be reached through charm. It must be earned through consistency. Her desire is not shallow, it is sacred. And sacred things do not respond to exploitation, they respond to reverence. To connect with her sexually, you must first connect with her humanity. Listen, not to respond, but to understand. Speak, not to impress, but to reveal. Be not to dominate, but to relate. Her sexual energy is not a switch you flip, it is a fire you build. And the kindling is emotional truth. When she feels emotionally held, she does not resist touch, she melts into it. When she feels emotionally cherished, she doesn't guard her body, she invites you in. This is not submission, it is celebration. Her arousal is not performance, it is partnership. A woman's deepest arousal is not driven by technique, it is drawn from emotional coherence. If your presence feels like pressure, she will close. If your presence feels like peace, she will unfold. She cannot be coerced into arousal because her desire is relational, not mechanical. You must engage her where it matters most, in the places she hides, in the thoughts she fears, in the vulnerabilities she protects. Emotional connection disarms her defenses and dignifies her response. It tells her she is not a means to an end, but an end in herself. The depth of your connection will determine the depth of her response. You cannot expect fire from coldness or intimacy from apathy. Her desire must be cultivated, not extracted. If she feels emotionally abandoned, she will withhold not out of manipulation, but out of instinct. Her body listens to the whispers of her emotional truth. If she feels loved, she will radiate it. If she feels seen, she will express it. And if she feels deeply met, she will meet you beyond words. So ask not, how do I turn her on? Ask, how do I make her feel deeply emotionally safe? Because when a woman is emotionally alive, her arousal is not just possible, it's inevitable. She will always respond to presence. She will always awaken to sincerity. She will always move toward emotional gravity. And when she does, it is not just sex, it is something far more rare, connection, that sets both souls on fire. Trust is not a luxury in intimacy. It is the foundation on which everything else is built. Without it, desire withers and connection collapses. A woman does not open herself where she feels unsure of your motives. She does not move toward a presence that feels unpredictable, unsafe, or untrustworthy. Her arousal is not born in pressure. It is born in emotional clarity. You cannot expect her to engage when she cannot predict whether her vulnerability will be met with respect or disregard. Communication is not simply words. It is the embodiment of reliability. It is not what you say in the moment that builds trust. It is what you consistently prove over time. A woman will never surrender to a man who cannot hold space for her truth. If she must edit her emotions to be accepted, she is not safe. If she must silence her needs to avoid conflict, she is not free. And where there is no freedom, there is no intimacy. The body does not respond in environments of tension and withdrawal. It responds in environments of openness and understanding. Her arousal is not fueled by manipulation. It is born in mutuality. She must feel that her voice matters just as much as her beauty. When communication becomes a two-way street of honesty, she begins to trust that her body can speak too. A woman reads between the lines more fluently than most men speak them. She notices when you're listening with your ears but not with your presence. She hears what you avoid and senses what you suppress. If she detects contradiction between your words and your energy, her body shuts down. Her nervous system is not confused, it is intelligent. It knows the difference between intention and performance. Communication that lacks depth is communication that breeds distance. She doesn't want to hear what you think she wants to hear. She wants to feel who you truly are. Her trust is not a prize to be won. It is a mirror of your emotional consistency. If you change with your moods, disappear with your fears, or defend yourself when she opens, you teach her that her vulnerability is dangerous. And once that belief is formed, arousal becomes armor. She cannot engage from a place of fear. The feminine body responds to emotional attunement like a flower to sunlight. When she feels your attention, she blossoms. When she feels your honesty, she breathes. But when she feels your absence, when your communication is shallow, reactive, or dismissive, she closes to protect herself. Her sensuality is not accessed through pressure, but through permission. Permission to be herself. Permission to speak her mind. Permission to be angry, soft, strong, unsure, and still loved. You cannot offer that space without communication that honors her inner world. She needs more than compliments. She needs comprehension. She does not want to be worshipped. She wants to be understood. There is no greater turn-on for a woman than a man who listens without needing to fix, who hears without interrupting, who responds without defensiveness. That kind of communication dissolves her resistance and amplifies her openness. When she trusts your presence, her body stops bracing. When she knows her feelings won't be weaponized or dismissed, her sensuality becomes unguarded. Communication is not seduction, it is sacred structure. When you speak with honesty, she rests. When you listen without rushing, she softens. When you ask without entitlement, she leans in. Her desire cannot be summoned with dominance. It is drawn out through emotional responsibility. The moment she feels safe enough to be real is the moment she becomes available to connect. Every time you choose clarity over confusion, you remove a brick from the wall she's learned to build. Every time you speak truth without fear of rejection, you invite her to do the same. She does not need a man who performs confidence. She needs one who creates safety. You cannot fake that through charm or tactics. She will always feel what you are unwilling to say. Her intuition is sharp, and her body listens to it. Communication is not about persuasion. It's about resonance. If your words do not resonate with truth, they will not move her. She will smile, maybe nod, but she will not engage from her depths. The erotic lives in honesty. When you name your feelings with courage, you give her permission to explore hers. When you tell her what you truly feel instead of what's convenient, you establish a field of emotional permission. From that soil, trust grows. From that trust, her arousal becomes fluid. When she feels safe to explore without judgment, she expands. When she feels accepted in her full spectrum of emotions, she responds with a depth that cannot be faked. Communication that prioritizes safety becomes the spark that ignites her desire. Do not confuse silence with peace. Many women grow quiet in relationships not because they are content, but because they are resigned. They have learned that expressing their truth leads to conflict, shutdowns, or dismissals, and when expression dies, arousal follows. If a woman must choose between her authenticity and her connection to you, she will choose survival, and her sensuality will go dormant. The only way to awaken it again is through communication that honors both of you fully. You must show her that she doesn't have to abandon herself to be with you. When you communicate with presence, you invite her to reveal. When you communicate with humility, you allow her to relax. When you communicate with vulnerability, you awaken her mirror neurons. She begins to feel herself through your openness. That is the moment intimacy becomes real. That is the moment her sensuality awakens, not as an act, but as a truth. A woman does not need to be convinced to desire you. She needs to feel that her entire being is welcome in your presence. Communication is how you extend that invitation. You cannot create lasting intimacy without trust, and you cannot create trust without clear, grounded, and emotionally intelligent communication. Her heart is not unlocked through dominance or strategy. It is revealed through the integrity of your word. She will remember how you made her feel long after she forgets what you said. If your words are rooted in truth, she will feel safe. If your presence is reliable, she will open. And when she opens, it is not a performance, it is a revelation. Her sensuality is not a switch, it is a response to emotional grounding. Every time you show up with depth, she meets you with desire. Communication is not optional in connection, it is connection. It is how trust is built, how intimacy is maintained, and how desire is sustained. She does not want perfection, she wants presence. She does not need you to always get it right. She needs to know that you care enough to try. When she feels your effort to understand, her body recognizes safety. When she feels your emotional responsibility, her nervous system relaxes. And when she feels deeply known, she will move toward you with a passion that cannot be imitated. A woman's arousal is not random. It is a response born from intricate systems woven into her biology and mind. Her body is not a passive receiver of desire. It is an intelligent organism that mirrors her internal world. When she is sexually turned on, what ignites within her is not just chemistry. It is the precise harmony of neurobiology, hormones, psychological safety, and emotional alignment. You cannot reduce her to a high without losing the sacredness of her experience. Her arousal is a symphony orchestrated by more than touch. It is governed by signals deep within her nervous system and shaped by memory, context, and connection. In the female brain, arousal is regulated by circuits that intertwine desire with emotional context. Unlike simplistic models that suggest arousal is just about external stimulation, a woman's mind processes far more than what is seen. Her limbic system, responsible for emotional processing, works alongside the hypothalamus, which governs hormonal balance. These structures collaborate to determine whether her body perceives a moment as safe, connected, and open, or threatening, isolating, and closed. When she feels emotionally met, oxytocin floods her bloodstream, strengthening attachment and softening resistance. That is not a conscious decision. It is her biology giving permission. Her body does not respond because of obligation. It responds because it recognizes attunement. Dopamine spikes in her brain when her senses align with desire, but it is not the dopamine alone that drives her. It is the meaning her mind attaches to the moment. She does not arouse in isolation. She arouses in context. That context includes tone, touch, eye contact, body language, past experiences, and the presence or absence of trust. Her arousal is a biological echo of her emotional climate. You can touch her skin, but if her brain doesn't signal safety, nothing will open. Arousal in a woman is not instantaneous because her nervous system is wired for discernment. Her body is biologically programmed to scan for congruence. Does what she feels match what she sees? Her system filters experiences for alignment before it allows desire to take root. The parasympathetic nervous system must be engaged for her to relax into arousal. If she is anxious, guarded, or emotionally detached, her body resists pleasure, not because she is broken, but because she is wise. Her arousal is her biology saying, I trust this. Her desire is her nervous system's way of declaring, this feels right. The female sexual response is non-linear. It does not follow a straight path of stimulation, climax, and release. It moves like a wave, responsive to internal and external cues. It is influenced by hormones such as estrogen and testosterone, but it is not dictated by them. Her arousal is also heavily modulated by serotonin and cortisol, hormones that determine stress and satisfaction. If her body is flooded